Welcome to Talking with Creatives. My name is Jennifer Dean, and I'll be utilising this podcast format to have chats with artists, creatives, and makers, hearing the stories behind their work and exploring what creativity means in everyday life. Today, I'm joined by artist Miriam Innes. Miriam is an Irish-born, Australian-based artist known for her monumental charcoal drawings and installations that explore memory, place, and the environment. Working across drawing, installation, and community collaboration, her practice delves into heritage and collective memory. Miriam invites audiences to reflect on our connection to landscape, resilience, and shared experience. From the peat bogs of Western Ireland to the bustling streets of New York City, contemporary artist Miriam Innes' monumental charcoal drawings and intricate paper-cut installations explore memory, landscape, and our connection to place. The immersive experience of Miriam's evocative works explore the lived experience of displacement, heritage, and home. Through these large-scale works and community-centred projects, Miriam delves into themes of environment, resilience, and collective memory. Her internationally renowned New York Rambling and her award-recognised response to the southeast Queensland floods, 22.96 receding, reimagine familiar places with tenderness and precision, inviting audiences to pause, reflect, and reconnect with the spaces we inhabit. Miriam Innes, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Miriam, I'm so excited for us to have a chat today because I first discovered you when you were exhibiting at Noosa Regional Gallery with the most monumental drawing I've ever seen in my life called New York Rambling. Charcoal. It was all drawn in such ridiculous detail. I have no idea how you even began. Just for our listeners to be aware, this was a 360-degree view of New York City. 27 meters in length is the total work.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? I mean, first, what inspired it? Why New York?
Oh my gosh. I could say so much about this project. It was monumental in more ways than just the scale. I felt like I had just stepped into big girl artist. Tracking back, I ended up in New York after leaving Sydney. I'd spent 4 years in Sydney, and then I ended up in New York, sleeping on a friend's couch in the Bronx, of all places, with actually very little money. And all I could really do at that time was kind of stomp up and down on that pavement and, take it all in. I remember at the time standing in that city, though, and feeling like it was so familiar. I mean, I think that the reason for that was because of all the sitcoms that was on television at that time or that we grew up with, Friends. And it was all based around that New York landscape, except I just found myself within that landscape. And I remember being in awe of it. But at the same time, it was kind of like, I've seen it and yeah, okay. And I thought as well, like at the same time, like, wow, how have I found myself here in this city?
All the way from Ireland. How did that happen?
A lot of my life has been the scenic route. I've taken the scenic route to places, and gosh, it's an amazing journey. Like, I kind of sit here and I think back and I think, wow, I've been so blessed and I've been so lucky. And I've always felt like I've been very well looked after by the people who have gone before me. In New York, I stood there and I thought I had no money, I had no job, and inevitably I had to go back to Ireland. That was all there was to it. But at the same time, I felt this overwhelming sense of needing to share the time that I was there and bring that New York environment to other places in rural locations like I had come from. And I thought this feeling I have could be a feeling that I could enable others to feel if I got my ducks in a row. Now, that was a great thought back then. This was early 2000s. It actually didn't get realized into 2009.
Wow, okay.
I carried that feeling all the way through. So I left New York, went back to Ireland. I lived in London for a year. I met my husband in Sydney. We were living in Melbourne, and I started drawing big pieces, New York pieces. I had my first gallery representation, Metropolis Art Gallery. I remember
Right.
saying to him, I just can't wait to get in here and cover all your walls in New York. And I remember him kind of nodding at me, going, Miriam, that's a great dream. And, I really wanted to see that, but I don't think that's going to happen here. And it was a lot like that. Like there was a lot of support behind this
Yeah.
project, but it took quite a while to be realized. And it wasn't until 2008 actually got a regional arts development fund from Logan City Council when we lived there in that region. And I thought that was perfect. 34 different types of cultures in Logan. It's insane. And I thought this is a
Wow.
perfect place to have this show. Michael Wardell, who was the director at that time, was fully on board, had my funding. Then I had to break it to him that, we were actually leaving and we were moving to the Middle East. So
Oh my
that was
goodness.
perfect
Okay.
timing in one sense, because my studio was very limited and my ideas were huge.
I mean, 27 meters. I mean,
Oh,
you need a big studio space to make that.
yeah, but the ideas are big, Jennifer. Like I always
Yeah.
have like big aspirations, big aspirations. The studio I had in Abu Dhabi, where we moved to, was insane. It was huge. It was beautiful. It was perfect. I give myself 2 years to actually create that body of work. And this was the first time too, then I started using social media. So somebody had says to me, you need to get yourself an Instagram account. I was like, no, 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 no. I don't want to be starting any of that, because then I need to continue with it. And I have this love-hate relationship with social media, but who
We
doesn't?
all do
Yeah,
still.
exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. But in those earlier days, I'm like, oh. Anyway, I says, okay, look, I'll put some stuff up and we'll see how we go. When I started creating those big drawings, a little bit of momentum started to gather, and some charcoal companies started tapping in about, I was using charcoal, I was tagging charcoal, and I was making these big works, and they were architectural, and they were
You obviously had a good following at this point. Or was it just because you were tagging these companies?
different tags worked. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, because
um,
they don't work so well these
oh,
days.
I don't know what works now. Like, anyway, yes. So, this Canadian charcoal company got in touch and says, "Look, we'd love to send some of our product to you." So, which they did. Anyway, that happened when I was in Abu Dhabi and still creating the work. And they says, "Well, what's happening with this work?" And I said, "Well, it's going to Logan." And they kind of says, "Well, what about New York?" And I went, "You serious?" And yeah, sure enough, 2009, I opened New York Rambling, Light from the Shadows, was what I call that exhibition, and that was opened in Tribeca. That was amazing. It was amazing to
Yeah.
have that opportunity to go there and like have charcoal and show it, showcase what this material can do.
It is so detailed, your work. Like, it's my previous podcast, which was with Juan Ford. We described
Yeah.
his work as hyper realistic. Your work is hyper realistic in black and white. I mean, the tones you get from charcoal, it's actually quite mind boggling, the detail. I've been to New York and I recognized so many places when I walked around the gallery space looking at your floor to ceiling drawings.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to have that in New York. What was their reaction? How did the locals react?
I tell you, I was really worried because if you think about the timeline here from when I was actually in New York,
Yeah,
and then it's only, and I had all my photos, I had my sketches, I had all that, but I could get this really wrong. Okay, now I'm opening it
right.
up in New York with this audience, and I
Oh
was,
my
I was
goodness.
super, I was super concerned at that time. Like you can be, you can get it as right, but this is the actual people, and I remember being blown away. And I don't use that term very often, but um, the response was people who were telling me, I walk up and down these pavements all the time, and I've never seen the things that you've drawn in these drawings. And like
Wow.
even the shadow on this, and the fire escapes, and all these things that they see every day, and I suppose take for granted, which
Yeah.
we all do in our own day to day. Well, we take things for granted all the time,
Mhm.
but for them, it was just an incredible response. I think I was very lucky.
Well, I mean, you were very patient with creating such an intricate work. 2 years?
Yes, it was 2 years. So then the show then went back to, Logan, where it was intended to go. And then it kind of just started to tour from there. I toured it myself. It was paper. So, it's,
Amazing.
you want to be able to be handling it yourself, really.
Yeah,
And yeah, look at it's been wonderful. I've added sections through it through the years, and I've retired
right.
panels through it. And
Yeah.
it is that and that immersive exhibition that I always really wanted to create, and to create because I wanted to work big. When I was in college, I worked big, but that was a long time between scales. It was a long time between the journey of when I'd left college to, all this hopping around the place to actually getting back to creating this work.
Yeah.
And then wanting to include people within that environment and try to have every aspect of the environment as well. So a rooftop view or a street view or an alley view, or all of those kind of authentic views in New York, not having any kind of association with any of the stereotypical New York scenes, the Brooklyn Bridge or the Statue of Liberty or
Hmm.
anything like that. I wanted to kind of keep it authentic. And I kicked
Yeah.
people out of all of it. There was no people in any of that project, because the viewer was the person within their own environment. And that was really important as well. But yeah, my practice definitely has that two stream. Like, it has those big immersive projects, and then it has the drawing, which is the core of what I do. Has always been drawing.
Where did the love for charcoal come from?
Oh my goodness, let's go way back. I'll have to throw in an all Irish tale here, and I love my culture, and
We would
a
love to
little
hear
Irish
it.
coffee here just to keep us going. Um, I'm very proud of my Irish culture and my Irish roots. And it's lovely to have an opportunity to speak about it, because it's not, you get to speak about people's journeys when they go to visit Ireland, but not actually my true roots, which are deep,
Yeah.
ancient roots in the landscape. So I come from a region that is in County Mayo, which is beautiful county that I guess suffered a lot from the famine back in those days. And the landscape is quite boggy. It's very peaty. So we call it the bog. Okay. It's this
Okay.
peatland. So it's black, dark brownish, kind of soggy, wet type of tangible material. When we grew up, we would spend summertime on the bog and saving the turf. So saving the turf was like the cutting of the peat, which was laid out to dry, which you would go in and you turn it around. Each family would have their own plot, and you turn that around, you dry it, and that's what you would use for your fuel in the wintertime.
Oh,
So
wow.
a lot of
Okay.
our summers, that is where our time is spent on the landscape, doing something for the better good for the family. And if you finished yours, because we were all given our own line to do, if you finished yours, you were sent over the village to help out somebody else's. So, wonderful.
Mm.
Because you spend so much time on the land, everything was a toy. So you pick up your heathers, and you pick up, your foxtail grass, and you learned to play with what you had around you. And part of that play was like the sticks or the bog oak that would come up from the bottom. So bog oak is preserved. It's not essentially oak. It's referred to any trees really as such, but it's the preserved
Okay.
trees from thousands of years that's been, like embedded down amongst the layers of bog. And when
Wow.
that comes up to the surface, or when you're cutting down through the piece, you quite often come across these, thousands of year old preserved trees. I mean, they were just sticks to us. I mean, it's great for me saying that, but I didn't know it at the time. I remember coming home with these sticks, like, and, dragging them off the wall, or, just having a bit of fun with them, or I don't know. I just have this vivid memory of just mark making on the wall. I shouldn't have been doing it at the time, because, the walls were white, but there I was, and
Blank canvas.
oh, perfect. Till you got caught. But like years later, when I was in college and experimenting with all these different mediums, and it was the charcoal I kept reaching for. And I remember one time a teacher said to me, like, you're going to have to get past the charcoal thing, you need to advance, you need to advance a little bit. And it was important that that was pointed out to me. But even though I had tried other mediums, still referred back to it. I didn't know why, and I couldn't explain it, and it didn't become apparent until much later when you kind of reflect back. It was an easy material. It was that black on that white. It was gritty. It was dirty, and it was black on my hands. It was similar to that peat. It was similar to that
Yeah.
bog. And I think all that familiarity and those kind of similarities with charcoal was the reason. And as I traveled and went to different places, it was traveling with me. It was almost like that home, that connection to home, that connection to land and family that
Yeah.
continued along. And I think I really just feel like that was it. I don't find any other explanation for it. But I always kind of said it was the material that chose me, which sounds super cheesy. But like I always kind of felt that way. And it wasn't that I hadn't tried other materials. It was just the one that I always referred back to.
It's interesting how you said that it spoke to you in that way, and it's that connection to memories you had as a child spending time with your family, but also that your work is all about connecting people too. Like you're wanting to create
Oh,
installations and works that draw the audience in so that they're not just purely observing something, they're actually
yeah.
part of your work. The way you said you omit pedestrians and people from your work because you want the viewer to be part of the work. That seems to be quite rounded in your philosophy, I guess, in your ethos as an artist.
Definitely. And I think, as many people on for the journey as possible. In my mind, I think like I've been so
Mm,
blessed to have such a great journey and traveled so many places and lived in so many places. But, why not bring as many people along to have that experience as possible? I mean, and I'm doing
yeah,
what I want to do. Like I'm doing what I love to do. Yes, it is about sharing with people, but still very much about what I want to do. Like I want to be able to include as many people as possible in
yeah,
those experiences. I get, like I said, it was like that time I was standing in New York and thinking, wow, here I am standing in New York, and I've just come from Sydney. And I was like, there'd be so
yeah,
many other people that would kind of feel that way, possibly. I mean, and what a wonderful thing to be able to do then, to use your art or your talent or your skill or whatever it is that you have and make people included in that. I feel like that was almost the reason why I was able to have a gift or a talent or whatever you want to call it, being tenacious and all of that kind of stuff to push through to see those things happen, see those things realized
yeah,
for
yeah.
yourself, of course, but also for others.
Yeah, yes, certainly. I mean, when it was exhibited at Noosa Regional Gallery, it was just after lockdown.
Mm,
Obviously, we didn't have a very long period of lockdown during COVID here in Queensland, but definitely people weren't able to travel even interstate. So it was actually really nice timing having this opportunity for our audience at the gallery to be able to come and visit your work and
yeah,
actually feel like they're seeing something different and going somewhere. I can remember that was part of the marketing strategy when I was promoting your work was, you know, come and travel, experience some travel just in the gallery space, which is, I think, the beauty of art is that it does take us places. The imagination is boundless. It's not defined to one area and one space, is it?
no.
It's limitless.
Before it had gone to Noosa, it was, and after it had been to Logan, the exhibition went to Mayspace in Sydney.
Right.
And I was so excited about exhibiting it down there, but of course I couldn't travel to the show. There
Oh,
was these
yeah.
images been released at that time of New York, and there was nobody on the streets. And then there's my
Wow.
exhibition in Sydney. I actually get goosebumps from it because it was exactly how things were. I was almost created as it was, but 2 years previously, not obviously knowing what was going to happen, but um, you know, you had to make an appointment and go to visit the exhibition, and things were very different during that
Yes.
period of time. But it's still, I still believe that was a great opportunity, very different type of opportunity to have an exhibition, and it
Yeah.
attracted a different kind of audience as well.
Hmm.
But yes, it was very surreal to see that these images I had created was like what was happening in present day at that time in New York.
Yeah, that's surreal to think about, actually. You've created
Who
something and
knows?
then it actually came to life. Yeah, wow. There's really cool footage of you on your social media of you actually creating sections of that work.
Yeah.
And you're up ladders and how many hours a day do you think you would have worked on that?
Family life, Jennifer, who knows? You grab the hours that you can while you're making sandwiches and doing dinners and making lunches and all of those
Yeah.
sorts of things as well, and going to extracurricular activities and all of that kind of stuff.
Wow. Yeah.
Some days were big days, some nights were big nights. All I knew was I had a deadline, and whatever needed to happen needed to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess there'd be days that you do a good 9 hours and possibly more if you could be organized well enough that you have all your meals and everything else done. But
Yeah.
when you've got, a young family, like you'll just take what you can get, but you just make sure that you have it done within that time frame. And it's not always days, it can be nights. And plenty of artists would say the same.
Yeah, and it's amazing because I guess a lot of people don't realize that the majority of artists aren't working full time as artists. They've got full time jobs to go to
Yeah.
as well, or they might have multiple part time jobs.
Yeah.
The art is something, would you say it's just something that you're compelled to do? I mean, when
Um,
you're sitting there on the couch and you're really tired after being at work all day and cooking for the family and getting homework done with the kids and getting them off to bed, where I would be going and sitting on the couch and relaxing, you're up working on art.
you can't.
There's got to be a compulsion there.
There's many compulsions, believe me. You can't you can't preempt when you're going to get a good idea or an idea.
Yeah.
So that might be, when you're sharp as a tack first thing in the morning, or it could be mid making a meal, or it could be 2 a.m. in the morning, which I might point out some of my better ideas have come from the 2 a.m. wake up call in the morning for
Well,
zero reason. It just seems to be the most creative hour of the day is 2 a.m. Yeah, you just don't know. I mean, that's why sketchbooks are awesome to have. I have sketchbooks in my car. I've got one in my bedroom. I have them scattered around the place. And it's that visual language. Like you mightn't always have the word, or you might have a sketchy idea of something, and you just kind of put that in there. And it mightn't be something that ever gets realized, or it is something that you can revisit and come back later on. And it seems to be the perfect fit for maybe 2 years' time, or a year's time, or a
yeah.
couple of weeks' time. All artists, I think, that are, serious about their career will say that you never have that off switch. You don't have that control. You don't have the
Mm,
control. The ideas come when the ideas come, and you have to execute them when you have the time to do so. For me and for many, many others, that is in and out of many other daily jobs and chores, the juggle. But,
yeah.
everyone's life is busy. It's not just family life. Everyone's life is busy these days. We've got so many options, so many things to do. You have to be mindful. You've got to look after yourself as well as looking after everybody else, and,
Mm,
running your household, and making sure that everyone has what they need, and making sure you have what you need doesn't happen. All of those juggles. It's what life is
mm.
now.
Interestingly, like thinking about your new exhibition, Torrent, which you've just opened at Grassland Art Gallery in Tambo. Little plug here, it's showing until December the 4th. That's a little bit of a step away from the charcoal, but again, it's something that I imagine you must be in a meditative state to create. I read on your Instagram that you cut out approximately 1 million little pieces of paper from this large installation, a paper installation you've created. Could you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, there's this
Yes.
is obviously your meditative time, your mindful time when you're sitting there concentrating on these works. Tell us a little bit about Torrent.
I don't know if there's any mindfulness behind that. It's more manic. You have to kind of get the work done. I think doing the work a lot of the time is the easiest part. It's
Right.
getting to the place where it needs to be realized. If you have an idea and executing it and studying it and making sure that it's going to work. A lot of ideas do not work. You've got something that size as well, you've got all sorts of logistics to think about and planning, and how is this all going to come fold down? How's this going to ship? Like, how is this going to present? And you want to make sure that it can present in, or I wanted to make sure that it could present in as many different configurations as possible.
Yeah.
So the piece that's in Torrent is called 36 meters square, and it was originally displayed at the exhibition 22.96 for Seeding, which opened at the Gympie Regional Gallery in 2023. That was my first major curated exhibition. It was a really good learning curve, I can tell you. And it's a show I'm really super proud of. I mean, we had 8 months. When I say we, it wasn't just me. There was an incredible team. Julie Gibbs and Leroy Todd were the two artists that were also part of this exhibition. It was a really frightful one in a sense. It was to do with the 2022 South East Queensland floods. Gympie suffered a huge amount during that time. The community suffered a lot. Businesses and losses. The scale of the loss was almost the same as the scale of the water, really. And the height of the flood was 22.96.
Wow.
That exhibition was realised with the Gympie Regional Council, and we had 8 months to literally put it together. But I'd been secretly working on it. Not secretly, but I knew something was going to have to happen. I knew, and I was so much affected by it. I started drawing and sketching in my sketchbooks down on the level of the water. Nobody really had to go very far. You were going to hit the edge of the water. And I started doing a lot of sketching from there. The Gympie community welcomed me so much, and my family, when we moved here first in 2020. That really affected me. Now, floods are frequent in Ireland, particularly where I was raised. We had a farm going through our property, and we would see floods all the time, maybe 3-4 times a year. I think it's even more frequent now. And you just didn't go near them. Floods were dangerous, and that was the end of that. But like, this flood was like, whoa, it was insane. The height was insane, and the damage was insane. And to put an exhibition together that had so much trauma involved in the actual subject itself, we really needed to bring our A game. And the best way to move forward is I thought, let's displace our practice. The community's been displaced, and let's just kind of displace our practice a little bit and see what things we could bring in. And let's all with art, like, let's have this opportunity to look at it from a different perspective and find something that was really, really interesting to what had happened. So I acknowledge 1 year on, because that's when it opened up, 1 year on. And at the same time, like, let's mesmerize the community. Let's find a way of making an experience for them that's a positive experience. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
That's what we did. We worked incredibly hard on that. So the components that were in my part of the exhibition is what Torrent is. So there's 22 metal glass square boxes in that exhibition. The 22 boxes are the 22 bridges along the Mary River. So there were hand-cut bridges, there were diorama boxes. So you had the bridge, and then you had the landscape, and then you had like a sea or a skyscape. The landscape was created with charcoal and silt, and the silt in each one of those boxes was collected from that bridge location. So I looked at what kind of materials we were given after the flood. Now, standing on the riverbed after a 22.96 height of a flood means that there is not a blade of green grass around. Everything was this really eerie sepia color. The entire landscape is just bleached, and it was just so insane. And I thought, this is like this New York experience. It's like you're standing now in a place that you're thinking, wow, there's something here. This is incredibly eerie, but it's something that few will experience. Why not share that experience? And that's what 36 meters square was. It was sharing that experience of standing on that riverbed and having that entire bleached landscape around you. So I felt like, because the flood had removed, that's what I needed to do. I needed to cut into the substrate, I needed to cut into the paper and remove and take away. And so it was the landscape, and that's what it is. It's the landscape that has been removed, the flood has removed those little sections, all those negative spaces. Me pushing the blade was the flood pushing through. And once that
Wow.
idea came in my head, oh my gosh, there was no stopping me. It was insane. Nobody ate for weeks. It was like there was no meals, there was no sleeping, there was no anything. It had to be realized.
Yeah.
And it needed to be flexible, and it needed to be a piece of work that was going to mesmerize. But the really important part of that work wasn't really the cutting itself, but it was the shadow throw. The
Mm.
shadows that were thrown through that work was the most important part, because the shadows can move and shift and go, which is what the flood did. It went, you turn off the light switch and the shadows are gone. And it's
Yeah.
kind of that sense of control with it. Yeah, it was an
That's
incredible
beautiful.
experience to create that exhibition and to have it so well received. I mean, we had 2 opening nights. So many people came forward and came to the gallery, and people who had never visited the gallery before. And there was all sorts of kind of, we had augmented reality videos embedded in some of the work, and Julie did this incredible, like 9-meter ink drawing that she had done from the collected flood mud. And Leroy had
Wow.
done this amazing video of interviews he'd done with people like farmers and people within the landscape, and not like regular kind of interviews, like really deep stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, supremely proud of how we all pulled it off. The gallery was amazing, and everybody was amazing because everyone wanted it to succeed. Like the entire community, we all
Yeah.
needed it to succeed, and it did. And
I mean, it's therapy, isn't it? And this is one of the wonderful things with art, is there's this opportunity for it to be therapeutic, to help people understand an experience or to share an experience. And that was an exhibition that you were able to work with as a group to actually help with healing for the community collectively.
yeah,
And that's really beautiful. And that's something that is important to your work too, isn't it? You've worked with the community a few times in different projects.
I think again that stems back to almost like the roots aspect of it. Like
Mm,
where I came from was this really, really small village. And and being able to share in a really small location. There's
yeah.
some awesome gallery spaces when you head out west. Really opening communities, and I love it. I love I love going out to communities and engaging with the people and talking to the community, and meeting the farmer down the road and meeting his grandkids, and and having a yarn. And I mean, that's me all over. I love a yarn. I love to talk
Yeah.
to people, and I love to hear people's stories.
Yeah.
I kind of relate to it, I relate to it. Like it's my heritage. We're storytellers, and my roots, even though there's no artists in the family as such, we've got singers and songwriters and musicians and poets, and there
It's
is a lot
art.
of there's a lot of
Just a different form.
creativity. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the little old artist sprung out of somewhere in the middle of all of that. And I'm proud of my heritage, and I'm proud to share it with others, and I'm proud to go out to regional locations and connect with communities. And I think the exhibition is only one way of connecting with them, engaging in them in a workshop, which is catered and created for their particular community, which is really important to me as well. So I spend a lot of time putting specific workshops for each location, and
Okay.
with an outcome that they have created something and it stays within the community as it's been made by the community. And yeah, I feel like I don't have a lot to share in terms of, skills or whatnot that other people wouldn't have, but like to create something together, I can facilitate that.
Yeah, and something from collective memory, I guess, and meaning too. So with the workshops, when you're working with members of the public, is this something that you're doing actively during an exhibition, or is this something that can sometimes lead to a new exhibition?
More recent workshops I've done, say in the last number of years, have been more along kind of community. I call the community legacy drawings. So
Yeah.
it is working with the council, the local council, maybe for up to a year before the exhibition comes on site. A lot of the time it is a streetscape. So they'll send on images of their buildings or their architecture that they're proud of in their town, and we'll create like Cloncurry was a 5-meter drawing and of those architectural gems, if you like. And
Yeah.
What's important, an important aspect to that as well, is we'll burn the native charcoal from the trees. So we'll use
Oh,
native
wow.
charcoal from their local tree species so that it's got that extra layer of
Yeah.
depth to the work. And oh my gosh, people are so proud. I mean, they say, you know, I can't do this, I can't do this, and you know, we get them on there, and you know, they'll be doing it. All the beautiful stories that emerge. You know, you'll have an old fella coming in telling you that he worked, that was his first job. He worked in the pub when he was a wee fella, and you know, and his grandfather built that pub, and you know, all these beautiful stories that get shared while people are there telling you they can't do it.
And yeah, and they're
And
sitting there actually drawing.
yeah,
That is so cool.
it's so enriching. Again,
Yeah.
it's the stories, it's storytelling, and they're so proud of it. And when it comes back into the community, you know, they'll drag everyone in to say, I did that tree. Do you see that tree there? I created that. I drew that tree. I drew those bits of grass down the front. I mean, the 80% of it will be created in the community. Then it comes back to the studio with me, and I kind of, you know, finish it off a wee bit, and then it goes back out, and it gets hung. And I get super excited about creating these drawings because just the way it impacts the people that come through the door, that tells you they can't do
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
they're so proud of themselves when they leave and they've done a little bit. And that goes
Yeah.
to their community. And it's, yeah, super special. And it's what's really special about it is how councils are so on board with it. It's a wonderful legacy to leave. It's like something that you've instigated and created, and we all work on it together. And it's a multi-generational piece. So you'll have full families coming in and working on it in the 2 days that it's there. And it's beautiful. I love those kind of connections. I love that art can do that.
And that's the thing. It is wonderful that councils are supportive of this because, you know, we're living in a day and age where we're all very isolated. We're all on our
Yeah.
phones or we're all sitting at home tapping messages. There's not a lot of opportunities for people to get together. I mean, I was talking to some friends recently. We play music. It also feels like there's not a lot of places to go to hear live music. So to have
Yeah.
somewhere to go, have opportunities where you can get together with your community and to meet your neighbors, to meet your community and to sit down and share stories. Obviously, that's something that's very full and rich in your Irish culture. I guess Australian culture hasn't had a lot of. We haven't had a lot of those opportunities to come together. We tend to come together when something catastrophe has occurred. So it's nice to hear that people are getting opportunities to come together even when something bad hasn't happened.
Yeah.
It's important for us
Yeah.
to connect, and that is what art does, and that seems to obviously be very important to you with your practice is building those connections.
I think so. Yeah.
You did mention to me not long ago some potential upcoming projects that you're thinking of doing or something that you're working on perhaps that could be overseas.
Yes, we're waiting on full confirmation for that.
Yeah,
It is subject to funding,
right.
so
Yeah,
that can be a tricky space to navigate because so much is subject to funding.
yeah.
But yeah, look at if we get our funding, we're there. We're there. It's happening. It's always, you know, it's just a matter of show me the money, and I think we'll
And that's
find a
the
way.
hardest thing, isn't it? That's the hardest thing for artists, especially when you're working on large projects and you've got big ideas. It's getting that support because, you know, there's only so much you can interject yourself money wise.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what doesn't come down to money these days, you know, if you've got
Oh,
big ideas. But look at
yeah, true.
I've got faith, and I, if I want something badly enough, there'll be a way that we'll find it. You know, there'll always be challenges. I have no doubt there'll be plenty of challenges, but look, that's part of the journey, isn't it? That's part of the fun. If it was easy, it wouldn't be fun.
What have been some of the interesting challenges that you've had to face in the past, other than funding?
Doozies.
Yeah.
I um I look at this. Been New York rambling has rambled around a lot of places now. I
Yeah.
think there's been maybe nine, so maybe 9 times. It could be more than that now, actually. But
Wow. What was the first year that it was shown again?
2009.
Wow, yeah, and it's now 2025 and you're still showing it.
Yeah.
So that is a long time.
No, 2019. Where am I at? 2019. My gosh, go back and scrap that.
How many of those Irish coffees have you drunk?
No, I've only had 2 sips.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's 2019, Jennifer. 2019. Yeah, I'm like, my timeline's way up. 2019, and that's 2019 we went to the Middle East.
yeah,
2019 was when it first went out, and yes,
yeah.
so it's been on the go for a wee while. And look,
And
it
internationally.
yes, internationally it hasn't been a problem. Shipping can be tricky.
Yeah.
Shipping can be really tricky. Like, it shouldn't be, but I definitely feel there's sometimes there can be a little bit of lack of care, even though the fragile tape is all over the place. And I'll share one, just
Yeah.
one of the bigger exhibitions, and opened, and it was amazing and all that kind of stuff. It was out in the outback, and there was a very unseasonable dump of rain on this
Right.
very dry, arid town.
Right.
I get this phone call on the Monday, and I had a couple of missed calls, but we were just about to leave, and I just turned up at the gallery just to, check how things are going. And I walked into this lake in the middle of the gallery floor, this beautifully
No.
filtered water that was in the middle of the gallery floor. It was a beautiful space. However, there was a leak somewhere in the roof, which nobody really knew about because the rain had been so heavy. And
My
it had come
gosh.
down through
Yeah.
the walls and through some of the work and
Oh,
onto the floor. And, the charcoal did a really good job filtering that water. You could have drank it easily. But I remember that was the
far
first
out.
time I cried. I actually had a
Well,
few
I mean,
tears just from the
you,
shock of it. Just from the shock of it. But look, you recover very quickly, and you go into, you switch into kind of auto mode, and you're thinking, what can you do to rectify the situation? And everybody was wonderful. I mean, I wasn't the only one shocked. Everyone was shocked. The gallery was
oh, the
mortified.
gallery would have been beside
But they
themselves.
did, everyone did everything that they could to be, helpful. And it was just one of those things. It was just one of those things. And, we got it dried, and, I retired the panel that was affected the most. And that's okay. I mean, you're working with paper,
Yeah.
accidents will happen.
How do you separate yourself emotionally? I mean, I guess you have to because you have to move forward. But I mean, I'm just thinking you'd be looking at that piece of work and I mean, wow, it's damaged permanently. It's paper and it's charcoal. The last thing you want on that is water. How do you move forward from that?
Oh, you have
Do you have
to.
to separate yourself from the work like it's somehow a separate entity now?
Sucking about it is not going to get anything done. You can be shocked, and yeah,
Yeah,
everybody was shocked, and I actually feel for the gallery staff because, oh my gosh, I guess they didn't know how I was going to react. I didn't know how I was going to react.
yeah,
Nobody knew how I was going to react,
yeah,
but my reaction definitely wasn't anger. It
yeah,
was, and then what do we need to do? I spoke to a few industry professionals. I made a few phone calls, and we just got a strategy in place. And I still had to roll out that day. And it was like, whether I take the work, whether I leave it, but I was like, it's not going to do anyone any good taking it out. Like, the worst has happened.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah,
And it would have been terrible for the community if you took the work with you. So we left it there, and then I went back at the end of the exhibition and deinstalled it. And like I said, everyone was amazing. Um, and that was it. Move on.
yeah.
Next, what's the next thing? You got to replace the panel and keep going. It's got somewhere else it needs to be in a few months' time, and get going with it. That's all there is to it. And
With replacing the panel, does that mean you basically had to redraw that section?
for that particular occasion, I recreated the section.
Wow.
When I designed that work, the end of each panel has got a certain perspective so that it can fit with the next panel, and the next panel can be any panel. So all of them can join up with each other at any point. That about with planning. Like I said, the work is easy. They're doing the work is not the problem. But I love that particular one. Like, it was essential that it was part of this exhibition in my eyes, and it wasn't a big deal. Yes, I was able to find some time to do it later on in the year, and now I've got two.
Wow. My
But
goodness.
I have put in new sections. I do like to do that. When it goes out, to put in a new, shiny new piece every now and again, or change things up a little bit. And
Yeah.
it's evolved now to having like, the augmented reality videos embedded in some of the panels, which it didn't have when it displayed in
Ooh.
NISA, but it will take you to the real live section of the drawing when
Oh,
viewed through the
wow.
Archive app. Yeah, so it's just another layer of that kind of immersion and just pulling audiences in. And of course, the younger audiences are so into it. You actually have to not tell them about the augmented reality until they've appreciated the drawing. But it's important for me that appeals to everybody.
Yeah, it's interesting actually how you've just mentioned this new aspect to that work, that you originally would have had this first initial idea and how the work has changed as the years have gone on,
Yes,
and it's
yes,
actually still it's remaining relevant because you're actually now entering these other aspects such as augmented reality. That's
yes.
I guess, is that something that maybe if there were young artists or emerging artists that are listening to this podcast, is that something that you would suggest they have to prepare for in having, as an installation artist, in having works that can change and that fluidity with the work?
But it definitely helps because you don't
Mm,
know what each gallery space is going to look like. And if it's all in the planning, again, I've found when I do these projects, like I need to make sure that I have a very flexible exhibition that can be created and changed into whatever different spaces that you might be presented with.
mm,
In saying that, I'm a very kind of frugal person as well. Like, it's the way I was brought up. You have to be practical, not being wasteful. And in terms of the environment, it's also important that you kind of have that way that it's almost like I don't say upshot kind of approach, that it is recycled, and not in an icky way. Recycled as in like bring a new show. Every time you look at it, it'll astound you as much as anybody else. I'm a tough critic
yeah,
on myself. So I want to be getting back as much as I'm putting out. And if I'm not doing that, then I need to go back to the drawing board. I need to find another way. And I need to be able to kind of engage myself enough to know that I'm not bored with this work.
yeah,
So I'm the one that sees it the most. So I need to make sure that I'm entertaining myself just as much
yeah,
as I'm entertaining others.
yeah,
And I think it's kind of, for me, it's important that you can interchange your exhibition. So it has that kind of longevity because you
yeah,
create this work and you spend a long time planning it and creating it. And you kind of want to be out there as much as possible, but to be also seen in different ways.
yeah,
So a huge lot goes into the planning, and then a
yeah,
huge amount goes into, the making, and then a huge amount goes into the installing.
yeah,
And of course, with Torrent and this new exhibition and paper cutting, which I will move forward to do a little bit more on because I feel like that's a really good medium for addressing environmental issues and
mhm,
environmental landscape work that I really want to do. And the shadows are super important. And the shadow and the tone, I mean, it's all so similar to the charcoal and the drawing. I mean,
yeah,
but it's watching the tone move and appear in a different way. I wanted to be able to change. I wanted to be interchangeable and delight me each time.
yeah. That's really exciting. I really wish I could go to Tambo to go and see Torrent. I've been looking at the footage you've been putting up. I mean, there was one video you put up and you're walking across it. And all I can think of is, oh my God, Miriam, get off it. You're going to damage
I
it. But I guess I've been through flooded work before, so obviously walking on it doesn't bother you one bit.
I should have pointed out actually all the materials in that show do not take on water. So you have glass and metal and it's UPO paper. So it's recycled
Wow.
plastic paper. So
Right. Yep.
water can't damage it. So when that exhibition comes down, you have to actually go through it anyway because, bugs love just getting
Yeah.
into like stuff. So I always clean it before it goes up. So that's why it was out on the floor. I got its little wipe before
Ah.
it went up. So I decided to go for a little walk to just see. walking on my dream. And yes, it all got cleaned afterwards. And it doesn't, it's a very durable material. So, yeah, it's, I realized I'd given certain people a bit of a price by that, but it's all good. It's all safe. It's fine.
Actually, that also shows obviously a lesson learned too from what happened with New York Rambling. Was that something that was in the back of your mind when you decided on this new material?
They didn't want it to be damaged by water. Yes, quite
Yeah,
possibly. And I think
yeah.
the project was well underway. Actually, it was completed before that exhibition. So
Yeah.
that actually hadn't
Oh,
happened.
yeah, yeah,
So, yeah, so, but it's good to know now.
yeah. So this current exhibition, Torrent, is showing until the 4th of December
Yep.
at Grassland Art Gallery. Is there anything else that you've got coming up or anything that you're working on, anything that you would like to share?
I I have my first exhibition with Penny Contemporary in April in Hobart. So that's what I'm working
Oh,
on now. And yes, hoping for our little overseas trip in June. And look at there's stuff dripping through right till the end of 27. So I've got lots to keep me busy, and I think that's really important to kind of keep that going. A couple of nights ago, I had another awesome 2 a.m. idea.
oh, good.
And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, yeah, that might be 2028 before we can get to that one. But that's okay because, like I said, a lot of these kind of ideas and concepts and sketches and all this kind of thing and little models that I do may never be realized, but there may be a moment for something to happen. And then I revisit that and I go, oh my gosh, that was perfect. I did that, I did that a while ago and that's a perfect fit for this.
Very true. Miriam, people can keep up with your creative journey. Your Instagram is at Miriam Innes Art. I'll spell that. It's at MiriamInnesArt. And your website is miriaminnes.com. It has been so lovely chatting with you, Miriam. It's always nice seeing you. You've always got so much energy and it's hard not to bounce back off your energy as well. You're lots of fun and it really does come out in your work, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm so amazed with your work because I can't imagine you being just so quiet and focused when you're so bubbly. So I love these two sides to you as an artist. Thank you so much for chatting with me today on Talking with Creatives. And I can't wait to see what else you have in store.
Yes, well, me too. Me too. I'm excited to be able to have ideas and I'm privileged really to be able to see them through.
Yeah.
I have a lot to be thankful for. And I really am. There's not a day that goes by that I don't have like just a little prayer to say thank you for everything that I have. Life is one incredible journey and we have so many lows. But you need to always bring the highs because most of the time we're not where we want to be. But you got to find the joy in your life. You got to bring it. And
Yeah.
it's a blessing if you can bring the joy to others as well. And, I was brought up that way. That's my roots. That's my family and my heritage. And my dear mother who passed away a number of years ago, sadly, and her 6 sisters. Oh, holy moly. The energy was insane. I'm fortunate enough, very similar to her. One of her biggest gifts was what she could bring to others in her joy. And I'm incredibly fortunate to have that gift as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Miriam.
Thanks, Jennifer.